Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of the Inspire Breathwork podcast. I'm Suks, your host, and someone who has been personally breathed by today's guest, which means I'm coming into this one with a particular kind of knowing and a very particular kind of gratitude. And today, we're talking about agency, about what it actually feels like in your body, not just your mind, to stand your ground, to stop scanning the room for what everyone else needs, to stop making yourself smaller so that other people feel comfortable, and to stop appeasing. And I'll be honest, especially in front of my facilitator, that this one landed very close to home for me because I have definitely been that person in the room, the one quietly managing the temperature, the one who clocked someone's mood shift before they had even spoken, the one who shaped themselves almost without knowing it around what everyone else needed. My guest today has not only lived that story, she has done the deep, unglamorous, genuinely life-changing work of rewriting a lot of it with courage, with humor, and with her whole nervous system. Her name is Pip Raine. She is a second-year student at Inspire Breathwork and someone whose breakthrough story, I think, is going to land somewhere very specific and very real for a lot of you listening today. Pip, the warmest welcome to you. Thank you so much for doing this with me today and being here.
It's a pleasure to be here with you in this capacity.
Yeah, it's a really nice role reversal. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
thanks for your warm welcome.
I wouldn't, I think I'm learning from you more than anyone else right now. Yeah. So before we do anything else, how are you arriving today? What's the energy you're bringing into this room right now?
So how I am arriving today. So it's post-lunch here in the UK, in Norwich. And I have my cup of tea next to me. I am looking out on some trees. I am very much looking forward to be speaking with you. And I am arriving with my feet on the ground. I'm breathing. And I'm going to bring my full self today.
I love that. I also love the range of expression you gave just now on how different parts of your being and body are arriving. That was very interesting. Definitely something I think we'll explore more of. And I will just say there's something a little funny and a little beautiful about the fact that you have held space for me to breathe through this last month. And now I get to hold space for you to speak. It feels like a very, very natural and heartwarming exchange for me.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. So, of course, the people listening don't know you yet, and I really, really want them to. So, I'm just going to hand this to you completely. Tell us about yourself, your world, your life, what lights you up, what dims you down, wherever you want to start.
Oh, where shall we start? Wait a minute. How long have we got? Okay, so I'm Pip. I am a white-bodied queer woman. My pronouns are she, they. I am originally from the northeast of England, near the choppy coast, the choppy sea of the North Sea, the vast moors and the market towns and villages. I have come from, I suppose I've had a lot of lifetimes in my time. Now I've reached the tender age of 48 and a half, nearly. Tomorrow. I used to work in theatre and on cruise ships, and that was my life for many, 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 many years. And when it was sort of like brewing in my mid-30s onwards, I was like, there's something more. What's more? I want to sort of get out there. I want to explore. I want to have more adventure. And it was a bit of a wake-up call, I'm not going to lie. So when it was sort of early 40s, the body was sort of like, hey, come on, listen to me. And from there, I've been following my intuition to get involved into this work, breath work, somatic work, expression, connecting back to myself. And I am now holding space for others to do the same, which is just something of a dream. It really is. I love, 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 love nature. I love being by the sea and the ocean. I love just being myself, laughing with my friends and connecting and talking deep as well. Got a very, very deep side, and I don't like to bypass anything. I don't want to be blinded by anything either. So it's very sort of like kind of, I try and sort of balance both sides of myself out. I still bring in, like, say, my theatre aspects of dance and singing into this now. And that lights me up a lot. And yeah, human interaction, like human interaction, just very, the simplicities of life, and being there and having time for people.
Thank you for that expansive landscape. Also, it's your birthday tomorrow. How exciting. How sweet. Thank you for telling
I'm
me.
48 and a half tomorrow. So I'm a Sagittarius.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's the mid of going from 48 to 49 tomorrow.
That's
Okay.
right.
Wait, I'm going to almost have to calculate into. So 15th of December is when we're
16th.
looking at then. 16th of
16th.
December. Okay. Okay. Beautiful.
Just put it on your calendar, remember it. No.
I will. I so will. I'm a very calendar person. I do this. I genuinely do. My whole calendar is filled with birthdays of the people I love. I really, really do. And then sometimes on the day, I'm like, do I want to wish this person? Are they important to me anymore? And that's a really nice reality check in life sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned how now at this stage of your life, a lot of what lights you up moves around a lot of these practices that you discovered in the last, say, 8 years, 6 to 8 years. So I think I would like to understand the intricacy of how breathwork found you. Say, what was the first time you encountered it, and what did you make of it?
Mm-hmm. So just pre that, I sort of did the eat, pray, love thing of selling my tiny, tiny little sort of like a studio flat, Southeast London. And I was like, I need a whole new start, like everywhere. I need just the direction I was going didn't feel right. And I was like, I'm going to trust this. I want to trust this and go with it. So I did like a little bit of traveling and had the space to be on my own and explore following my nose. And whilst I was traveling, I used to meet friends in places, sort of get in touch with them if they were out in Australia, or there was a friend who was working on a cruise ship in New Zealand. I sort of boarded the ship there and sailed with him for a bit there and blah, 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 blah. But how this work came into my life was not long after sort of I set off traveling, I came back to the UK and my dad passed. So I saw him for the last 2 weeks of his life. And my dad had COPD, and it was chronic. And he used to use his voice as a singer. And that's what lit him up way back when. And his latter years completely lost it with an operation that went wrong, a paralyzed vocal cord and all that. So just to sort of get an idea of how breathwork came in, it was my body and my intuition, but I really feel it was from spirit too. So it was after his funeral, I was, okay, what's next for me now? It was pandemic had just hit and the world stopped. I know a lot of people had to carry on with thanks to them for carrying on, obviously. And the ones that got to stop as well, it was a big sort of, well, it was a big wake-up call for me to have a lot, not a little, a lot of questioning. I've always really, really loved the spiritual side of life. And during my career in theatre and on cruise ships, I always connected to that. Every time I was about to go on and do something, I always was like, okay, Granddad, you're here. You're here. And I felt him. It was like as though I've always had that. So, yeah, there was a part of me then where I was like, those environments weren't resonating at all with me anymore. And I wanted to explore the more of like kind of that spiritual realms as such as well. And maybe because, I had my dad just passing as well as my grandma. And I was like, okay, are you, the connection sort of to still be connected to them. And it was just like, it was over the sort of, I suppose, process of like maybe the month after the passing, I would just be online and the algorithms were coming in, breathwork, 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 breathwork. I'm not a fan of algorithms, but this one I am a fan of. So I was like, okay, I'm really intrigued. I'd already done a really short holistic life coaching course online. It was really, really short there. And I really got into that and I loved it. So with this, the breathwork kept coming up, I was like, there's something in this. And I want to see what's in this. I was in a big crossroads. It was a real huge crossroads for a lot of where I was living, what lifestyle I wanted to do, what career do I want to, get myself into now. And it was, as well as grieving some deaths in my family. So there was just, a lot going on. So with the breath work, it just felt like a step in the right direction for me of something like I wanted to see what I was curious. Yeah. And from that moment on, it's just, I'm a different, I'm still me, but I've reconnected to myself so much more, and the parts that I'd shoved down and shoved away and unlearned and learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, you named some really big turning points and moments that brought you to this journey, and just holding with so much compassion and warmth the passing of your father and your grandmother, and feeling so much warmth, I think, listening to the spiritual aspects of how you did feel presence in spirit anyway. And that led you to some of these journeys.
Yeah.
And then So you dived right into it after that. Once you said you did a short life course, and then
Yeah, I did a short like holistic life course and life coach course. And from then on, I just knew it was like, okay, I want to deepen this as well. And I was at the time, because of a lot of where I was in that crossroads, I was very much content and at peace when I was on alone and with sort of close friends, but in social settings, I would get anxiety. And it was like as though something just, so kind of, I think I'd lost my footing with a lot of what made me anchored, gave me purpose. I was like, what is it? So I think with the breath, it was a great way to, get to grips with. And now I can look back actually and be with all this social justice work, the decolonial work we've been doing with Inspire. I have a language and I understand why I would feel anxiety in certain places now.
Yeah, just to go into that a little deeper, where was that moment for you where that switched, where from practicing this work yourself, you knew you wanted to facilitate it? And then beyond that, what made you pick Inspire Breathwork specifically, this training, this approach?
So I love people. I really enjoy people, and I've always had a lot of platonic relationships all through my life. The care, the love, and interest of relationships that don't need to be romantic. So it wasn't just that, it was just like I've got a lot of love to share and I want to share it as well. And I was really interested in, I suppose if interested in how sociology, interested in philosophy and how we are as human beings, what makes us tick. So that was sort of that opening to want to facilitate and also support others, no matter what's moving through their life. Inspire is my second breathwork training. The first breathwork training, I was with Alchemy of Breath. And I did really enjoy some of their teachings. And some of the facilitation was a great start. And then in my body, my soul, and from spirit, I was like, there's something else. There's something I need to learn and unlearn. And Inspire came up. Hannah came up on Instagram, actually. Inspire Breathwork. When would this be? We're the start of 2025. And I'd connected with Hannah before from the first school. So I'd done breathwork sessions with Hannah and always just loved her, the way she holds sessions and who she is, her personality and everything. So I was like, okay, what's this? What's this? You lean in. And it was the tide ritual I did initially, 2025. And then I was like, I'm in. there's something here that I really need to explore, and I want to do this training. I want to be part of the collective with Inspire. I want to be part of this social justice, social change work. And I was like, that's definitely something that I've brought into and integrated in myself. That was probably like people call it in the wellness, the shadow aspect, or, but a different part of myself that was there to stand for myself and others.
Yeah. Of course, we've talked about this briefly before, the resonance of how you and I had a very similar introduction to breathwork at similar times and also through the same organizations, which was very interesting to me when I first got on a almost a discovery call with you, and we discussed me being your breather, and and then these are the kind of instances that make me really believe in collective energy and how things come together for a reason. Hmm. Um, I find it really interesting that you came into this work from a performance background because, in some ways, and having done theater myself, in some ways, that world and this world are asking completely opposite things of you. One asks you to project outward with your voice, emotion. Yes, the journey is internal somewhat as well before you are on that stage, but there's so much outward projection. And this work, the work we're doing with Hannah and breathwork at large, asks so much of your inner self, so much of going inward. I wonder, did that tension show up for you early on?
Yeah, it was still there. Yes, it was. And we've spoken, like you say, we've spoken a little bit about it in our sessions, and how, from a performer, like how you would show up into a room for, like, say, an audition or even a rehearsal, or, it was like to be on, um, to make sure you're top form, or try, or pretend you are when you're really not. That was a lot of going on, where you're exhausted and you're just putting on this mask of makeup to when you're out there on that stage. That's what everyone's coming to watch, Um, so initially, I found it easier with Inspire because I am a sociable person. I can be gregarious. And I'm also introverted. So I've got all sorts of different sides to myself. And I call myself an ambivert in between. Um, with Inspire, it was a small cohort, and it is still, was in our second year. And that really, really helps with me, learning in that a smaller capacity, so I don't get overwhelmed on the screen. And yeah, so if I think about that, I'm learning so much about myself, even now at this age, and it'll carry on. Maybe some neurodivergence or something in there is that. But to be, just because there's only a few of us, you're like, I'm being, I'm being seen here. I'm being witnessed here, every session. And so that gave me a chance to, it was like sort of allowing myself just to be, because I actually really like just being myself. And I can be myself, but it was like as though it was embedded somehow, and the programming of how we show up. With people, we're getting to know as well. And yeah. And that's what I love about this work. So I've just gone off on a tangent because of how I can be, say, in a one-to-one or a group setting facilitating, or being the person being facilitated, and let it all out.
Yeah. No, the cohort definitely gives a lot of space for that. That's true. And even sharing in the feelings room.
Yeah.
For all listening, this might be like not known language, but feelings room is a WhatsApp group that everyone in each cohort is a part of. And we share without there being any directives for anyone else to respond to that share. We do respond, but we respond in just emoticons. Because the idea of that is so beautiful to me, that you just have a space to pour into whatever it is that's coming up for you. And initially when we started, I had actually thought, oh, this is going to be a place where everyone's, dumping all of their hard feelings, which was a little scary to think of. But then as it went on, I've noticed how many of those times people have shared gratitude, love, a feeling of togetherness, even the feeling of just missing each other when we're on break. And then even when the hard stuff has been shared, it's been shared in such gentle ways, with such resonance, that it's not felt heavy. And there's a beauty in that, in the way those communities have been, I don't know the word, but the communities have been, I suppose, held very gently and with love. So I resonate with what you're saying about this cohort being different from a lot of those practices. I want to just get at something which, for anyone who's listening from any of our cohorts, this will be deeply resonant. But for new listeners of the podcast, this might be an open window into the world of our training. Pip is in her second year at Inspire Breathwork, what's known in the course as the infiltration year. And for those of you who don't know, this is the year where students move from learning the practice to actively taking it out into the world, working with real clients, conducting research, facilitating sessions. It's where the theory meets the street, so to speak. And I'm in year one, so I'm watching Pip from just behind on that path, and that perspective is just so interesting for me. So Pip, just looking across both years that you have experienced so far, which class, which unit, which moment in the training has genuinely stayed with you? Something that, say, cracked something open in you that hasn't quite closed again?
Well, that's really hard to pick.
Take your time.
I kind of don't want to pick one over the others, you know? It's like they've all been incredibly insightful and explorative times for reflection, eye-opening, moments of like reality hitting, the social location part, and looking at power and privilege and the systems that are in our body and the social body. What's coming to me now? I mean, yeah, it's really hard for me to pick. But what sort of, I suppose, coming to me now is when we had a unit, I can't remember exactly what unit it was, when it was, we had facilitation, the fishbowl, the breather session where Hannah was breathing, each of us separately. So we got to observe and witness and see how a session is held in a decolonial setting, in a space. Before we practiced on one another. And that was a breather. I was breathed by Hannah, as we all were initially. And that just came to me then because it was a real, cracked me open to something that was needed. That was what came up in that session.
We can always circle back in towards a later part of the conversation if you'd like to sit with this one for a little bit. It's all circular, just like the course.
Yeah, it
life.
is, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, you just like go off on a tangent and I go via wherever I'm going to Scotland, and I come down to Wales, and I'll be with you tonight in India. Yeah. I suppose it goes from having my agent, going back to the agency, obviously, with this new founded anchor in my body, in my breath and my life, no matter what, is happening in the external. That session was something that really did, I wanted to be witnessed. And it was like, what do you want to feel into? Hannah, obviously, like as a facilitator is obviously not those words, but it was essentially is what's moving in us. And I wanted to be witnessed in celebration. And that was sort of missing in my life until then, from my new start. It's like from that new start of my life, and I think I've had many deaths and rebirths this past 8 years, and was like catching up, just really catching up. My body's catching up. And what it was like, I know my body, I know my spirit, I know it's like, it's like I'm listening in now. I'm listening here now. And over the course of doing this work, sometimes it's been a challenge of finding connection with people who get it. Obviously, that's my journey, as in not everyone will, and that's okay. But sometimes I was like, I get me. You're not getting it. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like, but it was, that session cracked me up because I was like, I've all the way through Inspire, I've really felt, I felt, I felt seen, felt heard, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That was, I love the journey that took to bring you into the feltness of everything. And for anyone listening, we did talk about this in the last session as well. But what Pip just referred to was something we call fishbowl sessions, where for the first few weeks, Hannah breathes each of us in the cohort week by week. And the rest of the group watches and observes and learns things. And then as we move forward, we each do this for each other as well, while the rest of the group observes. And we also learn how to give feedback to each other at the end of, not at the end, but in the next sessions we get together. It's really just a very beautiful structure put in place to let you acknowledge and notice the power of observation and noticing. Thank you for bringing us to that, Pip.
Thank you for explaining so beautifully as well.
Yeah, a lot of the frameworks actually that Hannah's brought into our lives have been very expansive before anything else. And I feel that it's sort of really rewired the way I'm functioning in my everyday life as well. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you began working with Hannah through the Tide Ritual. Maybe not began, but one of the first few courses you did with her was the Tide Ritual. Can you say a little bit about what that means for anyone listening who hasn't encountered that framework yet? Because I think it's one of those phrases that sounds abstract until someone explains what it actually does in the body.
Sure, sure. So it is a 6-week program. And each week you get a live call, and they're recorded if you can't make them. And so you can, essentially each week there's a different topic or a different intention to sort of sit with and move with and contemplate with. And during those 6 weeks, each day you get a WhatsApp message. Each day you get like either a breath practice or some kind of form of meditation to sit with, or that structure really helped. I really feel like it was each day with that Tide rituals was a great way to move through any transition or move through any form of change, micro, macro, that is going on for us. And with that sort of like structure of each day having those practices, it was, okay, someone's here. Oh, people are here, and we're actually in this together. It really did feel as though you were in something together. I'm just thinking about each week because of the different, the different weeks and what was brought in.
And perhaps the resonance of where tides come in. I mean, I feel like the value of those words, tide and ritual put together, also, and I'm just making an interpretation myself because I actually haven't been part of that offering by Hannah. So I'm also very curious if that was something that was discussed perhaps during the offering.
What was discussed, and again in our training, is about life as a ceremony. So finding our own ways of ritual and connecting to our ancestry for our own unique ways of that. Again, like the fire framework came in as well. So there's a lot of the frameworks came in, the tide ritual for exploration too. But honoring actually how it's the decolonial way of honoring transitions, honoring anything in life, whether it's birth, death, or anything personal going on or anything collective going on, and how this modern world and this Western world is just, the kind of urgency culture of it all. We tend to just keep our feet above ground. We might be floating around live, being pulled to left, right, and centre. But what the tides did was give some structure and some support into moving through transitional times with ritual.
Yeah, that rather encapsulates it quite well. Even the body experience you did bring in was I could understand where it was coming from, and perhaps I can understand it even better because I'm working with the same person with that energy, and that has so much value. And you are now currently in the thick of your research thesis, which I understand is a significant part of year two. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you're exploring, who you're looking to work with?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, I'm focusing in for my research thesis and case studies with the LGBTQ plus people and communities, and also musicians. I feel like as though it is a pull, a nudge, and a purpose when you see the way of the world and how it's playing out at the moment with fascism and very right-wing ways, and how we need this, and to be able to offer that to people who maybe thinking what's happening here, and feeling a bit of panic, and okay, this is kind of like where it's reversing back to the reversing the progression that everybody worked for. There's been so much recently around here of like in Norwich County Hall, the pride flag has been taken down because a lot of Norwich and the country has been taken over by very, very right-wing reform party. And so, I feel like as though it was always brewing in me to want to offer this work for that community. So I'm just going to see how it unfolds, and it's already started. Obviously, it's already started, and it's a way to pass on this wonderful work and what we've been through ourselves, and give some context to my own story to people as well. And then that's where the connection, the real connection comes from, I think, and trust.
That's beautiful, and it really does, because I've been breathing with you, and that connection has been felt very, very deeply for me as well. It was, I think very honestly, it's the one and only reason where after we spoke, I did want to continue with those sessions. And I'll just quickly mention here, if anyone listening is interested in participating in Pip's research or any of our second year students' research, please reach out directly. Sessions typically run across 10 breathwork sessions and range from free to a nominal fee, which is at the discretion of the facilitator. And all of these details will also be in the show notes. So explore. Um, and Pip, how are you feeling energy wise? I just feel like doing a check in right now before we move into some other spaces beyond the course.
How do I feel energy wise? I feel good. Yeah, I feel, yeah. And how are you? Do you want?
I'm good. I'm really good.
a break?
I'm good. I don't want to break. I just feel I don't know, a little bit like conscious of the responsibility I'm holding in this space. And I'm enjoying the responsibility of the space holding because it is a sacred thing and it's something I value a lot. So that check in just felt very almost like, hey, we've spoken about a lot of things that were, deep explorations for you, and you've recapped on a lot of the last few years, and a lot of time things come up. So I just wanted to check in to see
Thank you.
how that's going.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're here and I'm here. I do want to dive in back into your theater background for a moment, because I do think there's still a lot of interesting aspects there for me. When you spend years in a world that is literally about reading a room, about embodying a character, responding to what an audience or a director or a scene partner even needs, I would love to explore with you what that does to you, what it does to your nervous system over time, in as much granularity as you would like to take us into.
Okay. Okay. So looking back, I mean, I must say, there was some amazing times as well. I don't want to sort of like give it like a bad rep, but there was some amazing times, and then there was times where it wasn't so amazing. Yeah. To be all sort of like, okay, this, for example, there is like, say, a team that are putting on, say, a production, and they have this specific sort of like type of character, or this something needs to look a certain way, or listen or hear, be able to be, that audio needs to be a certain way. So quite often they come from their inner vision and their vision, and it's projected onto you, which is essentially a lot of even film and, any type of acting, dancing, singing. And what can happen there is, I mean, I used to, in a way, it's that thing of like, reading what is needed and making sure, like, every time you try different ways of maybe moving, say, for example, reading how that person received that. Did they like that? Did they, did that land in them? It's like, or is it, they kind of like flinch, and you're like, oh no, that wasn't so great, And it's like, give me a couple, just give me a second, and it's just like kind of transporting back in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's,
thank you for taking the emotional load off that experience, because Like I said, I understand how big it is to dive into things from the past.
If I think about it, um, for me, it's a sense of dissociation. In my body, well, a few times I would have been. It's giving energy. Yeah, like you say, it's giving that energy outwards. So it's giving that energy towards something. So it's always obviously that kind of somatic, on the go, that sort of like, we're here, I'm here. It's never sort of like, oh, we've got time for this. We've got time to explore. We've got time to create, because there was always like like a goal to be at a certain point, or a set time to get something up and running. And that pressure you felt. I think a lot of the time in that sort of world, my body was crying out to be able to do my own stuff. Even then, if I just sort of think about it, like, and collaborate in more of a alternative space maybe, or in a different setting. To have to have more agency. And then going back to, I mean, sometimes I loved it, and the casts were blooming great and we'd have a laugh. But not always. But I suppose going back to that, how your energy is always out, rather than, hang on, let's check in here. Is it something that actually resonates with me? And going back to that agency thing is like, I used to have an agent. So I had an agent who used to ring up, hey, you've got an audition, you've got to learn scripts in a night, you've got to learn a song in 2 days, or, there was a lot of this going on constantly for years and years and years and years. And not knowing how that can sort of like be a bit of a shock, well, I suppose, shock to the nervous system, really. I need to get this done. This needs to be good. I need to be on it. I need to do this work now. Drop everything, drop life. It was a lot of that. Drop life, drop yourself, leave yourself. Yeah.
That was a really interesting nuance you brought in, where you said you had an agent. And so essentially, that's almost like that word. I don't know the etymology of the word, but it almost sounds like handing over your agency, your personal agency, to a person who can now tell you when and how you must show up. And yeah, that was very like a moment of, wow, it blew my mind for a second there. I love that. Not that a lot of that was your experience, just that moment of euphoria, that's a relational thing. And was there, say, a version of you on stage or off who felt most like yourself back then? Or was performing always, to some degree, also a way of managing? You have, I mean, taken me through some of this, but I think I'm trying to understand if other versions of you existed while before this breathwork practice came into being.
Mm. There was a version of myself that really deeply loved music. Like, I just, that whole live orchestra or band. that sort of got me fueled, It's like, oh my goodness me, just like listening into the different notes and the different tones and them coming together to give out such a beautiful just like kind of that the vibrations you feel from that can even like just think about it, the emotions it brings up. And I loved being that as a kinesthetic person. I love moving. I love voicing. I love singing. So there was a part of me when I was in contracts, whether it was in shows or on cruise ships, that I was just like, this is ace. This is great. This is ace, because it's just like again, you're like, this is work. So there was some aspects of it where I was like, this is me, and I'm allowed to be paid for what I'm enjoying doing. I always really, I always was very much into the pieces of theatre and pieces of like, say, if it was play or theatre, the ones where they always had sort of some kind of deeper meaning and some gravitas, and some truth behind it. I didn't connect to the ones that were a little bit fluffy as much, or a little bit, I'm just going 5, 6, 7, 8, do do do. It didn't really, that wasn't really me. But we've got to pay our bills like anything. I think that that's why I love this work. It's because I can bring the part of me that is that sort of the essence underneath what I did love and bring it into more expression with this work, exploring some movement, some voice with it.
Weaving in so much of, like you said, you've had multiple births and deaths in the last 8 years, and then weaving your past lives into your present ones can be a very joyful experience. So I'm really happy for you that there were elements there that you could bring with you so that these tiny pieces of your past lives still, stay on. And I do want to honor those parts as well, because those moments where you feel like, wow, I get to do what I love for and be paid for it are really big moments in allowing us to keep reaching for things that a new version of us now wants.
Sure.
So that's beautiful. Um, would you describe some of what your body was going through as how we know just to get into the terminology of it, how we know as the freeze, flight, fawn response? What do you feel like sometimes when the body was showing up in those performances, that while it is functioning, that also is a form of freeze?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was sometimes like I was choreographed in a certain way that didn't suit my body. I'm not naturally flexible as a person. I've had to work at that. I'm strong, I've got pizzazz and I can sort of get that leg there, but I'm not naturally one of those Lucy's. So say, for example, like say a choreographer in a room would be like expecting me to get my, say, right leg up to my ear or something. And it's like, it's not going there, mate. It's just not, my left leg's better, but that's not going there. And so a lot of the time with like maybe some people of like kind of the disappointment of that on their behalf or having to force myself 8 shows a week of doing something my body shouldn't have been doing. I pushed too much. I would freeze. So that essentially is stiffening the whole body up anyway. And yeah, when freeze came in, it's like as though I felt a bit like I'm a puppet on a string. I need to do this or else I'm just going to be, oh, what else can I do? You know, I might get sacked. I don't know. You just, so it's, yeah, a lot of times actually I push my body in too many ways. Yeah, and that's essentially that freeze nervous system state where we can't run. We're not, we sort of, we can't get away from it. We can't get away from what is there. And to stay in the room and to stay, that sometimes happens.
Thank you for taking me there and what would go on through your mind, like, what that dialogue was when you did notice these things just had to be done. I, in fact, have discovered, uncovered recently how my body responds, because everyone's response to freeze, like as a freeze response, everyone acts differently. It's not just as the word suggests that you just suddenly pause and you're not able to move or have any action. That's not how it shows up for everybody. And that was a very interesting uncovering for me also recently, when I realized that being performative sometimes was my freeze, which can be just confusing in a sense if you're just trying to go by language. But because human beings are so different and nervous systems are so different, it only makes sense. And it is such a particular kind of survival strategy that so many of the people use. I'm also curious where this would show up in your body. Like what would the freeze feel like from inside, not just in your mind, but in your body? How would it show up?
So you're asking me, like, how did your body feel at the time in that freeze?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite ironic because I was using my body in my work, but I was completely dissociated from it a lot of the time. So, some emotions. What came up in freeze was injuries and anxiety. Oh, holding my voice, what I wanted to say, feeling power over. So, anxiety. Mm. Yeah, there's things there moving. I haven't felt a loving, compassionate relationship to my body until exploring more of this work through our course. I would never put myself through some things I put myself through in the past ever again. And yeah, and that's the agency as well. That's anchor of agency. It's quite, when I speak about it, it's some people don't understand. And again, I don't want to be obviously throwing it out and blaming others. And it's not to do that. Um, like some people would love to do what I've done, and I get some people saying that. And also some people see it as through rose-tinted glasses, that everything's glamorous. But it was at times, but there was a definitely a darker side to it too.
Thank you for letting me touch those parts right now and for the courage to touch them um, while feeling through them. What I also find so powerful about what you described is that none of that was weakness. It was, in fact, intelligence, your nervous system doing exactly what it had learned to do to keep you safe. Um, and thankfully, this work isn't about blaming yourself for any of it, it's about updating that system. Um, so it's beautiful that you're on the other side of it, and not like there's only one other side, but you're on some other side of it. So that's beautiful. Moving into the work that you now do, that does bring your soul alive and doesn't as often leave you in your freeze responses, I hope and I assume. I'd love for you to take us to a moment, a specific moment in a session or in the work where you felt something shift, not the gradual change, but perhaps the peak of it, the moment where something that had been held for a very long time finally moved. And we're free to take a few minutes if that feels needed right now.
I think it comes into that sort of having of late, recently, the death of the people pleaser. And the death of the people pleasers has that did start, and it's had different installments. But of late, it seems to be quite cleared of it. Quite cleared of them, which is great. Like pinpointing a moment is hard because it's that gradual, how we take our time, with it all. And that's what I love about it's not pressured in any way to have, oh, now I'm healed, because our healing journeys are constant, aren't they? It's like, I love the way that Hannah brought into the session that a trauma, sometimes we don't need to be healed of it, but we can give it space. And that really, a lot of words have really hit me somatically as well. Words do really, as well as the practices, can really hit me softly in a good way for me to come to terms with what I was doing before, how I was in the world before. Again, well, you brought up not the gradual bit, but if I think about just the practices that we do, like coming into the Vimbas, or what was a great practice that I loved actually is the pendulation exercise to help the flexibility of our nervous system. So how you were talking about the freeze and how we freeze, all of us, in different ways, whether it's freeze, fawn, appease, fight, flight. That pendulation exercise was shall I give a little bit of a explanation? Do you want to?
No, please go for it. That would
You
be
don't
amazing.
So like when we come into be facilitated, come into our centers, one of the practices we're gifted by Hannah. We are facilitated and guided into our own centers, our own grounding. And then I might have missed something out or might be saying it slightly wrong, so apologies, because it's just come up. And then we sort of imagine that sort of a wide circle, maybe a meter away from our body, that 360. So we've got some sort of like kind of energetic space there, sort of energy space that we are filling with that, as well as connected to ourselves. And then there was 3 approaches. I remember those exercises, and the first approach is somebody, it was close your eyes. Yeah, it was closing their eyes. So no matter, you sort of got this, this sort of feeling, of this felt sense, the sensations of this first approach. Somebody is approaching you, but you're in your center. You've got your circle around you, is that little soft protection. And they're coming towards you. And it was like somebody who is not really for you, might misunderstand you, doesn't really believe in what you're doing, or might just be completely like shut down the politics you're into, or whatever it is. There was just all that. And then there was the second approach come in from, and they went away. Sorry, I'm just getting a bit fast here. My brain goes too fast sometimes. And then they leave. So it's the sense, what does that do to our bodies, our spirits, our minds when we get that approach, and noticing that, and then that person leaving, coming back to our center, coming back to the grounding and to breathing in that space of that circle again, like coming, into that. Second approach was even worse than the first approach. I think it was something like somebody wants to not see you do well, or is like, really like kind of ready for your downfall or something like that. And I just thought, I need this because this has happened. This happens in life. And it has happened. And so I was like, okay. And then noticing what happened there, and it could come up as a person or a visual or a sensation in the body or emotion. And then that approach leaves, that person leaves, coming back, giving flexibility into our center again, our grounding. And then the last approach, the person or people coming in and just like giving you like all the praise and all the cheerleading and all the, like kind of the empowerment, and how that feels in your nervous system, and how that feels in your body and your energy and your, the way you stand, the way you hold yourself, the way you lift your chest, or whatever it is. Feel that, and then walking away, and then coming back to find that in yourself and your center and your grounding. A little bit of little bit of pendulation exercise. That was, and practicing that, I've really gone into that actually quite a lot. When I felt, certain people or energy approaching, or maybe something online that something says as well, It's like, okay, notice how that makes, what's moving in me. Okay, this is happening from the outside, but what is moving in me? And then being able to give that flexibility and some space into the nervous system, and for it to naturally come into its own rhythm.
I do personally really love that framework of pendulation also. Maybe not the framework so much. I do like the concept when it was introduced to me. I was just like, wow, this is such important work for capacity building, especially when you're going into spaces of social justice and reform and you want to be a compassionate agitator, and then how to work through those feelings. And then not just going into those spaces, but I think as human beings, as the human race we are today, we do need so much more of that capacity so that we're able to not create war after war and instead just learn how to move through those moments when we're facing someone with opposing thoughts. But I will be extremely honest, I absolutely despised that practice. I just, and I was honest about it to Hannah as well in our
Yeah.
feedback call that month when this practice came up. And I was just like, yeah, I've been practicing all the other breath works we've been through, but this one is just not my thing. I just don't want to get into that space, and then I think she said something on the lines of, if you feel like this is an experience you are able to embody in your everyday life, and perhaps that's why you're feeling like this practice is not so relevant to you, it's fine, because the experience, the point of it is to allow your body to embody it. And I think this was just a skill set I was a bit comfortable with already. So I was like, I'm not going into the visions of people who are showing up this way in my life because I just don't want to face them. Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, not ever for me.
Maybe that's what I'll bring up next session. We do the next session.
Yeah. It is a little painful for me too, because then it puts me in that position of, oh no, now I have to face all these things they held for me, instead of me having just resolved it in my own mind and found resolution. I have to see them as real people suddenly, and I don't know if I want to do that. But I don't know, maybe we should have had a contract here about you not using any of this against me.
It's where'd you sign? It's not easy work. Like it's. I think it's crucial work what we're doing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but I mean, some of it we are feeling our joy and our expansion and our that state of taking in so much love. But that's like when we're in the soil, like you say, coming into the social justice and change spaces, it's needed. Or else, if I hadn't been practicing, I'd be running out a few doors. Oh yeah, I'm choosing to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually a great segue of what I feel like getting into next, which is just the idea of conflict. Because I feel like it's such a big one. And unfortunately, communication is just not a subject taught in our education system, even though it's the one and only thing you have to do as a social being, as a human being. Um, so I feel like maybe you can take us through a little bit of how your body used to respond to conflict, what used to happen in your body when you sensed conflict coming, even before, like, because that response starts much before the conflict actually arrives, because feedback loops have been created.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm curious how that would be physically and how it's changed today.
How's it? So how it's changed was I really started to go, I need to do some work on this and my behavior with conflict. And I did Hannah's Breathing Beyond Empire. And there was a lot of time to be and sit and breathe and contemplate about conflict. If I look at a lot of the past and some environments I have been in and was in, there was no healthy conflict. And I've learnt as well from conflict is actually conflict with repair. Conflict is actually love in action, is actually care. And the more I've allowed that to be absorbed into my cells, into my bones, I get it. Because if I think about it, when I was younger, and and in times before looking at conflict, I feel I'm an open communicator. But times where I felt that I haven't been able to, or somebody sort of maybe shut me down, or possibly I've just sensed whatever I'm going to say they're not going to like. Or being around people where it's really quite brutal or really quite loud in conflict, or sneaky in conflict, where there's no repair. It's just like silent treatment or pretend that didn't happen. And I could never understand that. I'm like, go, excuse, no, I can't, okay, now I can't trust to be myself here and now without having to, can we sit and talk about that and possibly share what came up for each other or in the group and repair? But with obviously going through the fear of conflict in Breathing Beyond Empire, and we've had some in the Inspire as well that's been brought in. I'm sorry, sometimes I'm going way back to sort of a distant sort of felt, like it's kind of like, how old am I here in my body now? This is what's happening.
Especially when changes with such gravity are happening through a smaller phase of time, it genuinely becomes hard to reflect and think about your age, because it might have been just 2 months ago. And now you're suddenly thinking about 5 years ago, but it wasn't 5 years ago.
Time, eh? Yeah, it's like, yeah. Yeah, it's like, what has helped me with this is actually being part of something. I used to sit on the peripheral a lot. I used to let somebody have their say and feel better. Always make sure somebody felt people were feeling good, trying to make everyone feel good. And that was part of my people pleaser side as well. So if I'm kind of like thinking about that side with the conflict that comes up now, I'm like, oh, I don't have to shut down. I've got a voice. it's, and if somebody doesn't like what I'm saying and feels discomfort, and if I feel discomfort, both sides, then that is conflict. That's essentially building our capacity for, to bring more life in as well, really, rather than shut down, cut off, silent treatment.
So naturally, your own freezing fawning history has made you a better facilitator and has allowed you to show up in rooms in much more compassionate ways. I'm curious, what does it actually give you in the room with the client? However, that experience shows up for you, whether it's physical, mental, even spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does it give is I love building, slowly building a relationship with trust with one another. And by building trust, we can then be more open with communication. I really encourage open communication. I don't, I'm not like they're going, come on, please, please, please open up. It's not that. It's just, I really, really, I love that encouragement, because I think having that encouragement as well from others, from others, is just, it's like gold dust in a society that is on that still sometimes hamster wheel and doesn't have time for people to essentially be emotional beings as well as thinking beings, and all of it. It's like I think the cultivation of safety. It's the cultivating safety, and how that was brought in from the get-go as well with our course. And that what I love that was brought in is, we don't know whether we're in a safe space. And that's great. I love that, because that's reality, where a lot of the white-washed wellness spaces that I've been in, it's a safe space, and so it's like, essentially people are there, open, they've got things coming up for them, and they, without any sort of cultivation of safety, have their own back, grounding in themselves. And I think I was one of them. I've learnt my lesson the hard way. Yeah, so this course, how politicized somatically, and looking at the systemic ways of oppression and stuff, has given me that rooting to understand how important the time of building trust is in one another. Please.
You spoke about how just now, how the idea that no space is inherently safe, and how we're building that safety within ourselves. And then you also took ownership of how some of these things were things you were doing in the past, and it helped, you had a hard reality check, and then you changed some of those things in your practice. So I'm curious if this is a belief about yourself that this work has fundamentally challenged, or is there something else that you would like to give that prized position to? Yeah.
The exploration, the curiosity of our internal, and the exploration of life. If we don't have the fundamental tools and that safety within us, it's it's quite I feel like it's quite a dangerous thing. And I think it's that thing of sort of like knowing, okay, this isn't, that we never know if we're in a safe space. It gives us, again, I suppose it's the work to do our own inner agency. And whatever happens, like, I mean, we could be untouched for days or weeks, but if something that wasn't so safely said or, safely brought in, with cultivation of safety, we can again do the practice of anchoring in the pendulation and have our own backs, like really have our own backs. Not just superficially and not just saying it, but it's from from our bones. I suppose it's like the yin and yang of life, isn't it? Or how we want to sort of bring it into the yin and yang, the beautiful, magical, spiritual aspects of the work we do, to the gritty, raw, gut-wrenchingness of some of the parts of life. And once your eyes are open, and once you're out there, you can't ever be blindfolded again.
That was very beautifully spoken and phrased also. I see why you take the moments in the questioning, because then words like these flow out. So the pauses are absolutely worth it. And I think I want to say something here as your research participant, because I've been on the receiving end of your facilitation. And there's something about the way you hold space that I think comes directly from all of this work that you just referred to, all this work that you've done on yourself and the steadiness of it, the rootedness, embodiedness of it, the lack of an agenda. And I feel all of that. So I know that brief feedback came to you a week ago, but this genuinely is what I want to express. Thank you so much for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your personal curiosity, actually, because that's what led you to be this version of yourself. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Pleasure.
While you do these sessions, is there something that has surprised you in the sessions you've facilitated for your thesis so far?
Yeah, I must think, if I think about, well, actually it's not a surprise, but it's something that I wasn't sort of essentially going, this is my research thesis for, but it's people pleasing. I'm getting a lot of people pleasers. And quite often people are gravitated towards us for some, reason, isn't it? It's like, maybe I should just do research thesis, the death of the people pleaser.
That's a brilliant focus, and I feel like you'll have a world of clients waiting to do this with you.
Let's do it. I'm really passionate about it. Absolutely, because now we truly start living from our soul without having to censor so much as well. It's like, yeah.
So while we use these phrases often in the kind of work we do, centered, embodied, rooted, and some of it is what we are on some days, I want to ask you what that actually means on a Friday afternoon for you today, not in a session, not in a peak moment, in the ordinary, um, in the moment where something could knock you off your footing? What does the inner medicine look like now?
Right, the inner medicine. So again, it's like the moments of practice we have in our breathwork sessions. It's like, how the yogis say, taking it off the mat, that's when it happens. Essentially, it is, we don't know where we are when something's going to happen. So it's bringing that, okay, I might need some centering in this moment. Something might have crossed my path or whatever it is. And centering, yeah, we do use words, don't we, in these sort of spaces where, yeah, people who haven't got into this language will be like, what is that? Centering is generally coming into our inner voice and just questioning what's going on for me. So it's like, okay, what's just happened there? What's just knocked you off your feet? Not dwelling on the outside, which I used to a lot, but coming in to give that sort of the communication of body. Yeah, I've got you. And no matter where I am, like say I could be in somewhere busy or somewhere in nature or whatever. Yeah, if something's, knocked you a little. We could be in a busy shopping centre, but still be there and stay and give ourselves the moment of spaciousness in our body in a crowded space, in a crowded room. Whether it's some coherent breathing or some just breath attention, gathering our energy to our bodies again.
I actually love the breath attention and awareness practices. They have been just the most, I feel like they're not just centering and grounding for me. They're very expansive, and they really, really bring me back to the core of why I am doing any of this. Every time I feel a little far away from my vocation, that practice actually helps me come back very wholeheartedly. Really valued it. And I think what's so important about what you're describing here is also that it's not that the old responses have gone. The freezing still exists, the fawning still exists, performance exists in all of us.
Yeah.
It's just that you're no longer unconscious of them, at least on most days. And that gap between stimulus and response, between, say, trigger and reaction, that is where agency lies. And it's just breathtaking to me that the breath allows you access to so much.
Absolutely.
As we transition closer to the end of this session, I want to make sure that we talk about the Breath Collective before we close today, because I think it's something a lot of people listening would not have heard of and really should know about. A lot of the people in the organization, I mean, studying through the organization, also might not be fully aware of this yet. So, would you be up to taking us through what the collective is, what it stands for, where can it be found?
Yeah, sure, of course. So there's on the Inspire Breathwork website, you have the Breath Collective. And if you click on that, then you get pictures and of people who have finished their training and are offering sessions. And also you get the pictures and information once you click on of the second year students who are in infiltration. And you can obviously read through their website, who they are, and get a feel of who they are serving. And it's a great variety of different practitioners on there, facilitators. And yeah, I am not up there currently, but I'm going to get a new website really soon, shortly. Layla's helping me with it. Layla from our cohort, so who did it?
Yeah, she's the
Episode
first
2.
person. Yeah. After Hannah, she was the first practitioner that I had on here. Yeah, I've actually been thinking of just reconnecting with her and maybe doing some more sessions with her also. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Love
So
the skill exchange.
So we get, yes, exactly. It's all about that. Yeah, exactly. And then, so I'm going to get help with a new website because mine's old, needs to be scrapped. But yeah, so that's coming soon. And then you can reach out. I've got my Instagram at Pip Raine happening as well. That's current. That sort of feels definitely more current.
Yeah, and we'll also put all of this in the show notes. So if you're a queer person or a musician, as Pip said, those are her key focuses. But even if you're not that and you did feel connected today, then, the show notes are here for you.
Absolutely.
And you are free to reach out.
Yeah.
And you have available slots as we speak, right?
Yes. Well, I really like I really like working with a small group, so I can give my attention and energy to the people I'm working with. But yeah, I do have some space for invitations in. Yeah.
Whew. Thank you so much. Is there something alive for you right now that you want to share, or a question you want to ask, or a couple of more yawns also work for me? Anything goes.
No, what's feeling alive is just being really, I'm feeling very grateful to be part of this movement and collective. And I'm really looking forward to my future as well as the present and step by step. But I've, felt this new aliveness with the new agency that's come in. And here's to breathing and open communication.
I think it was so interesting for me to uncover so much more of you, because every session we're in is more about me than it is about you, even though I definitely know you more than a talk therapy client knows their therapist. But this was really, really enriching for me. And I'm extremely grateful that we did get a chance to do this. Thank you so much. Thanks for showing up with vulnerability and honesty in the space also.
Yeah. Walk our talk. I really appreciate, obviously, your organization with this podcast and the way you hold it and your words and your compassion here. Thank you.
There's a ritual I hold at the end of every episode, a poem. Not to tie things up neatly or make them tidy, but because some things can only be said sideways, and poetry knows how to do that. Today, I want to offer you something by Mary Oliver. Not that she needs an introduction, but she does deserve one. And we are into honoring people for what they rightly deserve. So here goes. Oliver was an American poet who spent her life paying attention to the natural world, to the body, to the quiet, persistent question of what it means to be truly alive. She wrote with such simplicity and such depth that her words have a way of landing somewhere you didn't know was open. She received the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award, but more than any of that, she gave a lot of people permission to be exactly what they are. This poem is called Wild Geese. I have read it more times than I can count, and every time it gives me something I didn't know I needed. So today I invite you to gently receive it. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. What undoes me about this poem every single time, gosh, is that very first line, you do not have to be good. Not you are forgiven for not being good, not try harder the next time, just you do not have to be good. Full stop. As if that were the simplest, most obvious thing in the world. As if we hadn't spent decades arranging ourselves around the belief that our goodness, our usefulness, our acceptability was the price of admission, and inaccurately believing that morality is somehow part of nature. And then she does something even more radical. She says, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Not your achieved self, not your performed self, not the self that has read all the right books and done all the right work and knows how to hold the room. The soft animal, the creature underneath all of that, the one that knows things your mind is still catching up to. I think that is exactly where Pip has taken us today. The whole journey, from the fawning, the freeze, the hypervigilance, back to that soft animal, back to the body that knows, back to the self that was always there, waiting to be trusted. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world is announcing your place in the family of things. You belong here exactly as you are. What Pip brought into this space today is something I find genuinely rare. The willingness to describe in precise and honest detail not just where she has arrived, but where she started. That kind of honesty is not easy to offer, and it is not easy to receive without being moved by it. as I was extremely moved by it. I hope you were too. Next month, we go somewhere different with a new practitioner and a new authentic story that I can't wait to discover and unpack with you. If today's episode moved something in you, if something Pip said is still sitting in your chest, here are a few things I want to invite you into before you go. Subscribe to the Inspire Breathwork podcast wherever you listen. This season is building something, each episode a layer of something larger, deeper, more honest. And I want you to have all of it. If this conversation spoke to something you recognize in yourself, perhaps, the fawning, the freezing, the long exhaustion of managing everyone else's experience, then pass it on. Think of the one person in your life who might have needed to hear this today. And you don't need to explain anything to them, you just need to share it. And if Pip's work is calling to you, whether you want to explore breathwork with her, be part of her research, or simply find out more, her details are in the show notes. Please reach out. She is doing extraordinary work, and I have been personally moved by it, inspired by it, opened up by it, and it is available to you. Well, so thank you for being here yet again, for walking this with me, episode by episode. Until next month, come home to your body. Trust what it knows. And remember, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it already loves. Take good care. Until next time.